Hi guys, my name is Trinity, and if you're here, you must be here to talk about books, or rather today, you might be here to watch me play the name game, because I was tagged by Ben over at Literature and Lo-Fi. We're friends on Twitter, and this sounded like a fun game to play. And his rules were, pick your name spelled out in books you've read and TBR books. So I'm pretty excited about this. It was a little difficult for me to do because NIT were hard to find. I'm like, man, I have to own books that start with these letters, but no, I couldn't hardly find any of them. And then why? I did want to avoid using the or a at the beginning of any of these books, so tried to avoid the and using the T's in my name. And so that did make it a little harder, but it was still pretty fun. So for our first T, I have a very recent read of mine, and that would be Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Now, I've avoided putting this on TBRs. I have avoided reading this book. I've owned it for a really long time, but I had watched quite a few videos of Sarah J. Maas lovers, and they just don't read the same books that I do. I do like fantasy romance. I love the Fae, so it made sense that I would like these books, but I read House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, and I didn't enjoy it. And so Throne of Glass kind of got shelved for a while because I was like, I don't know. Well, I had a little bit of issues with my own mental health going into this last month. And I was like, you know what? Why not? It seems like it's going to be a fun read. And I was pretty impressed with Throne of Glass. Now, after talking to many people upon my read of the book, they were like, oh yeah, Throne of Glass is better than ACOTAR. I don't know why everybody told you ACOTAR was better. And I was like, that seems to be the popular opinion. And they're like, no, Throne of Glass is so much better. So apparently, amongst my friends, Throne of Glass is a lot more popular than ACOTAR, and I just didn't know that. For R, I'm sure you could see this coming. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I don't like Red Rising. You guys know this as well. I'm actually, like, Red Rising was about a 2-star for me, but I loved the follow-up books. I loved them. I thought they were so fast-paced and fun. And I really enjoyed them. I thought Red Rising had a lot of pacing issues, and it would throw me for a loop because I was like, we go from fast-paced to pumping the brakes quite often, and I couldn't handle it. For a book that I have read, Ink and Sigil by Kevin Hearn. This book was so fun. Now, I haven't read the series that this is a spinoff of, the Iron Druid series, but I do really love these books. I'm excited to continue this series as well this year. Haven't picked up the second book yet, but these are focused on druids and magic, and it's kind of urban fantasy, but we have all of these fantastical creatures too, and so they're really fun, and I would highly recommend them. I had to pump the brakes on my typical recommendation for N because I've talked about it a lot recently, so I'm going to say Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I really enjoyed this book. I don't know that I liked Ninth House as much as I liked Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, but I think that this book has a little bit of first book syndrome, first series, and we are getting a lot of the backstory. But I did really enjoy it. I love how we have a character who has been through like this horrible past and finds herself at Yale, of all places, and involved in a secret society where she can see these ghosts that are running amok in the school. So I think it was pretty entertaining. Next, we have Ink and Bone by Rachel Kane. I actually read this book, and at the end of it, I was like, okay, that was good. It was good, but I'm like, I don't really feel like continuing with it. I don't really feel the need to go on. But I did like the concepts in this book quite a bit. I just felt the execution of them weren't great. I love the idea of the Library of Alexandria surviving and going with that moving forward in a fantasy lens. It was pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I was like, I don't think I'm feeling this series. T, These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I read this last year, really loved it. I love the Romeo and Juliet retelling. I like that it doesn't focus on the romance, even though it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling. But you still get the elements of Romeo and Juliet within the story. Plus, we have this big horror that is running amok in Shanghai, and they're trying to solve what's going on within the city. And then there's a whole lot of political machinations going on as well. And I found it to be a very fun, exciting, and kind of gory read, but it was 100% up my alley. I have read the second book in the duology, but I will give those thoughts in my March wrap-up. Why? Year One by Nora Roberts. Okay, I really liked this book. However, I don't know if you guys know what it's about, but it's about a pandemic that wipes out a lot of the population. And I read it right at the beginning of COVID or amidst the COVID stuff. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. This is horrible. I don't want to read this. But I did end up really liking it. And I think Nora Roberts does fantasy really, really well. And I think a lot of people just don't look to her because they think romance when they think Nora Roberts. But her fantasy stuff is pretty dang good, and I would recommend it. Of course, trigger warnings for the fact that it's a pandemic, and if you're not settled into what is going on in the world just yet, don't read it yet. But I would definitely recommend it for a future read. Okay, part 2 would be books that are on my TBR. And for T, of course, I have Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castile. Everybody's been trying to get me to read it. I've said before, the only thing that puts me off to reading it is how much everybody else loves it. I think I will like it. I do think I will like it. I don't think I will love it. So I'm kind of just letting it chill out because I don't want to not like it and everybody else does. But like I said, I do think that I will like it. I just haven't gotten there yet. But this is the first book of the Great Coats series. I know we are dealing with very heroic heroes, very epic fantasy. And I know that there is some Deus Ex Machina that happens within the series. I don't know when, I don't know where, but I've heard that it happens. And I've heard people are put off by that in this series. It's not always a deal breaker for me. Not always a deal breaker, but I'm definitely looking forward to getting to it this year. R, Resistance Reborn. Why not throw my Star Wars fixation in here? I'm actually looking forward to this because it seems like this is going to be a book that is centered on Poe, which is one of my favorite characters from the newer movies. And I'm really looking forward to finding out what happened between the second movie and the third movie. I would really like to know. In the Orbit of Sirens by T.A. Bruno. Now, this is a book that has been recommended to me a lot. And I think it's because it's the type of sci-fi that I really, really enjoy. These worlds get destroyed and they have to go find another world to live on. And or find a way to survive. Those are like my favorite types of sci-fi. I really do like those. And so I have had this recommendation for a while. I'm actually probably going to be reading it next month, but I'm looking forward to this quite a bit because everybody that I know that has read it has absolutely loved it. So yes, looking forward to this one. In the book that me and Andrew can't seem to get to in our buddy reads, and that would be Ninth Reign. We have been trying to get to this book all year, and it's kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit, not because we're not excited about it, but because we ended up buddy reading a couple series, and those started to take priority so that we could finish out the series. But we are both looking forward to this a lot. I am really interested in the different fantastical creatures that we will be with in the story. And I've heard that it's kind of like them trying to save the world. So all of these fantastical creatures coming together to save the world. And that sounds like a pretty cool concept to me. Okay, for my next I have a book that I randomly found on Goodreads and it popped up as like a recommended book for me, but I saw the cover and I really liked it. If you don't know, I really like Luke Arnold's covers for his series, and I really like the Rivers of London covers on their books. And so when I saw this, I was like, okay, I like this cover. I really like this cover. And it has decent ratings. They're not like super high, but it said delightfully cheeky, unquestionably charming, and sometimes maddeningly naive. Cloth mage Paul Gallagher is desperately trying to make a name for himself in a reimagined post-war London, but in a world where magic is commonplace, sewing enchanted clothes is seen as little more than a frivolous distraction. Paul is hiding a secret, however. He possesses a powerful and illegal innate magic that could help him achieve his wildest dreams. That's all I read. That's all I'm going to read to you guys. But it sounded very, very cool and very along the same lines of Luke Arnold's series, and just that kind of era that I like to read about, and the urban fantasy that I'm drawn to. So I'm looking forward to this quite a bit. And like I said, I was drawn to the cover. It looks so cool. Okay, so the next tea that I have for you is This Woven Kingdom by Tara Maffei. And I haven't read anything by Tara Maffei yet, but I've heard very good things about her writing. And this one says, clashing empires, forbidden romance, and a long-forgotten queen destined to save her people. The first in an epic romantic trilogy inspired by Persian mythology. And if I'm remembering correctly, oh no, I had thought that this was an adult debut, but it is still young adult. But the cover again is really, really cool and kind of sold me on it. You guys know I am a sucker for a lovely cover, and this is beautiful. But this also is centered around Jinn, and I really, really like stories about the Jinn. And so I obviously want to pick this one up at some point, some point this year. It sounds really good. And then our final book would be The Last Letter of My Name, Why You're Never Weird on the Internet by Felicia Day. And I'm excited for this. My friend Nina was the one who recommended it to me. I really love Felicia Day, and I'm not big on memoirs. So to add a memoir to my TBR is a little odd, but because it's the queen of the nerds, Felicia Day herself, I'm going to go ahead and give this book a try later this year, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I've heard the audiobooks are really good. All right, that is it for my video today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!